Hello and welcome to another Sequire Spotlight interview. I'm Jonathan Miller, Vice President of Trax, and today we're joined by Dennis Calvert, CEO of Biolargo Incorporated, ticker symbol BLGO on the OTCQB market. Biolargo Incorporated invents, develops, and commercializes innovative platform technologies to solve challenging environmental problems like PFAS contamination, advanced water and wastewater treatment, industrial odor and VOC control, air quality control, and infection control. With over 13 years of extensive R&D, Biolargo holds a wide array of issued patents, maintains a robust pipeline of products, and provides full-service environmental engineering. Biolargo's peer-reviewed scientific approach allows them to invent or acquire novel technologies and develop them to maturity through their operating subsidiaries. With a keen emphasis on collaborations with academic, municipal, and commercial organizations and associations, Biolargo has proven itself with over 80 awarded grants in numerous pilot projects. Biolargo monetizes through direct sales, reoccurring service contracts, licensing agreements, strategic joint venture formation, and/or the sale of the IP. Several of Biolargo's technologies are commercially available and are advancing as disruptors in their respective markets. Dennis Calvert operates as the President, Chief Executive Officer, and Chairman of the Board. He also serves as the same position for Biolargo Life Technologies Incorporated and Biolargo Water USA Incorporated. And now, Dennis, since we last spoke, I believe in October of 2022, there's been some advancements and changes. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about what the company's been working on?
Jonathan, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. We have a lot to talk about. The last year, we exceeded the prior year's revenue by about 132% or greater. We'll have our quarterly results reported on or before March 31st of this year. So we're anxious to get those numbers out. But really, if you look carefully, we've seen quarter over quarter growth that's pretty dramatic, and annualized revenues at least 100% now. And so we think that trend's going to continue. And what it really signals is the adoption, finally finding the marketplace for our innovations where they can make commerce and go to work and do something great for the planet, for people and pets. And so we've got a couple of winners in the portfolio that are big, and we got a couple of winners in the makings. And so I had a gentleman say to me in consulting, he says, Biolargo is so unusual. Usually we say you got a lot on your plate. At Biolargo, we have a conveyor belt. I mean, we are innovating so fast. And the thesis of our business model really is to focus on purposeful innovation, all sustainable, good for the planet, for people, and for commerce, right? And then innovate those technologies into product designs, find early commercial adoption, and then really distribute them through partnerships. And so what we're witnessing is how all that work is really starting to bear fruit and generate meaningful sales and revenue and actually go to work in the marketplace. And we've got more coming. So yeah, since we last spoke, we've just watched those numbers climb, and we think they're going to continue.
That's really exciting. And I know I've spoken with you about this before, about the importance of the work you're doing for our viewers at home. The advancement of being able to clean these PFAS or forever chemicals out of our waterways is a very important undertaking. Can you elaborate a little bit more about how these chemicals may affect humans? I know the University of Florida and University of North Carolina are doing studies on how these can affect our immune systems, our hormone disruptors, all that.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah, PFAS. So that's a class of chemicals that is focused on chemistry that was made primarily to support nonstick coatings. So if you go back, things like Teflon, Scotchgard are obvious uses of that chemistry. But really, they touch everything. They're used in manufacturing pesticides and food packaging, food, coatings. It's just literally almost everywhere. And of course, over time, these chemistries were made to withstand the natural degradation of nature. So just listen to that, withstand the natural degradation. That means they don't break down. They don't break down. And so what happens is they accumulate. And it turns out that as they accumulate, they can become hazardous. And they've been linked to cancer and adverse health effects, birth defects, for example. And now litigation is trailing all over the world. It's just an unbelievable circumstance. So they're measuring in the parts per trillion. That's like a grain of sand in a swimming pool, or a grain of sand in 100 swimming pools. It's unbelievable. And so now they're detecting it in places like the polar ice caps, in the rain, in the water cycle. It's in the groundwater, and it's not good. It's not good. And so we started about 3.5 years ago developing a technique, and we made a decided decision to focus on building the most excellent collector to be the extractor of PFAS. And the reason we chose that is our team has been doing environmental engineering for over 30 years. They are world-class experts in the space. So we know destruction. We know how to destroy things, especially contaminants. But we also knew that the regulators were going to control the gate for the innovations to go commercial. And so we made a decision to get in early as the most excellent collector, knowing that the destruction techniques we can do, but we also want to wait for the government to decide what's acceptable before we bet a commercial decision on a significant capex to develop that kind of solution. So as a result, we've landed our first customer. It's a big one. It's an industrial site. It's a Superfund site. Think of it like a Superfund cleanup site. It'll run for 10 plus years. We estimate that project to come in somewhere around $7.5 million a year over 10 years, $7.5 million a year over 10 years. And that's our first engagement. So we're now in the process of specifying the scope, the breadth, and scaling that technology to its first commercial scale installation, which is underway. We're in that process as we speak. It doesn't happen overnight, by the way. These are like big construction projects. So when you get the engagement, you can look out 6 months, a year before you really are at scale. And I think that that's the big thing for Biolargo. That first adoption is so critical. But as we get our commercial scale reference site, then we become available to municipal clients. Now, what we've done in the PFAS space is developed a complete distribution system. We have 9 signed agreements with channel partners or manufacturers representatives. And one of our team members, Tanya Chandler, has become an expert in the speaking engagement, speaking to regulatory, where regulatory is, where it's going, what it means, technology choices to try and get ahead of the regulatory curve for clients. And as a result, we're now doing speaking engagements all over the country as an expert in the space for making those decisions. Anyway, it's an incredibly exciting piece of our business. I will say it's not fast, but it's magnificent. And when I say magnificent, I mean it's a real viable solution where the value proposition of our technology features low cost, extraordinarily small environmental footprint, an efficient way. And we've even achieved non-detect status on our testing. Non-detect means essentially, for the layman, we took it all out below the level at which science can detect the contaminant. And I can't stress enough how important the solutions need to be able to achieve a non-detect status, because we're hearing that the drinking water standards for this PFAS problem is probably going to come in the 4 to 6 parts per trillion as a testing limit. I mean, 4 to 6 parts per trillion is like a grain of sand in 20 swimming pools. It is unbelievably low level. But of course, what it means is that this is a chemistry. These PFAS chemicals have been deemed so dangerous that there's no acceptable limit. That's basically what it means. And so this is an emerging field. Some people say it's a $60 billion a year market. I think it's much bigger, actually. And there's a lot of people that agree with that, because what happens is as the detection limits get so small, the scope at which the compounds affect industry become wider and wider and wider. And so it's affecting food manufacture, crop production. There's a real high sensitivity for landfills. What are you going to do with the leachate and the concentration of these chemicals? And again, PFAS is, quote, everywhere. And so to be at the forefront, and we are at the forefront, we're one of the contenders at an international level to be a leader in the ability to extract to a complete non-detect status. And I want to mention just one thing that I think is really important for people to understand. Our first engagement, which is a huge industrial site, we're actually replacing incumbent technology. That's usually a carbon or an ion exchange system. And what happens is those are so problematic because they collect everything, that your waste stream is often 1,000 times greater than our waste stream. And so it's a compelling value proposition. And we believe it's only a matter of time before the industry really recognizes us as a leader. And so we think it's a game-changing technology and commercial opportunity for Biolargo.
It sounds like a monumental undertaking. I can imagine only some of the pushback you might receive from big heads of corporations that manufacture these chemicals, the different applications they have in consumer products and the military. How did you get involved in this? What are some of the obstacles you faced trying to bring light to this important subject?
Well, we were about 3.5 years early. And so when we said, hey, we're going to focus on PFAS, everybody says, what, are you out of your mind? I mean, really, we were way too early. And we said, no, it's going to take us that long to be ready. But this is going to be a big problem because we've got, I don't know, half a dozen PhDs and environmental engineers at the company, really smart people. I always have the least smart people in the room of the crew. I mean, they're so talented. And they've been doing this environmental remediation work for literally 20 and 30-year careers. And we have a whole team. They were technical leaders at a 55,000 man firm before they came to Biolargo as principals and owners, right? They're partners. And so we have the talent to look ahead and understand what the future holds in some of these industrial markets. And now we have the bandwidth, the talent, a little bit of critical mass to be able to look down the road and be prepared. So we got prepared. So it doesn't happen overnight. And the concept of the AEC, which is the collection device, is we flow water through a panel. It's a plate and frame, and it has an electric field, and the PFAS migrates to its opposite charge. That sounds so simple, right? As it goes through, migrates through the water to its opposite, and then it collects on a membrane, and the membrane kind of acts like flypaper. That's so simple. Everybody can get that, right? Flow it through, collect it. Okay, what's unusual is that it's able to isolate the PFAS. So it's a selective extraction. And so as simple as that sounds, the actual art of its execution is significant because you've got power gradient, you've got weight, the energy, are you destroying the membrane, measuring the collection capability, developing a process for the replacement of membrane. So you've got a service component. So there's a lot of art to the execution, and it's embodied in patent applications for the company, of course. But the point is that really, at the end of the day, the market yearns for an economical and environmentally sensitive solution to a massive $60 billion a year problem. And so we've got our sweet spot, and we believe this will be as we say, we'll be busy for the next 20 years on this. This is not going to happen overnight. And it's huge. It is a huge market. And already we've got channel partners and manufacturers reps and developing this incredible selling channel. We've got so many projects on our plate that we won't be able to do them all, right? So in other words, we're going to focus where we've got an early adopter at this scale, at this stage of our development. And then over time, as we get more and more reference sites, our scale and ability to really take care of this massive opportunity will continue to expand. And of course, we're looking for great partners, right? So that's how, at the end of the day, that's how it goes big. Through the partnerships that allow you to scale and focus on the replication of our innovation, our technical knowledge, build margin and replication to build a business model that can serve the world. How does a little company, serve the world? Well, it starts with one customer, and then it starts with one partner. And then you look back one day and there's a whole avalanche of activity that goes out and conquers the world. And that's what we're doing. That's the business model at Biolargo. So it's pretty cool. And we've got others too. We got others.
That is really cool. And while it is a massive market, I imagine, as you mentioned, it's very difficult to navigate, and you have to be very passionate personally about what you're doing. How did you directly get involved with this?
Well, the company's got 15 years of innovation, right? And it started when I met the first inventor, Ken Code, the founder, and he had just made a discovery for some chemistry, and the chemistry had the ability to act as an antimicrobial, also act as an oxidizer. And he was focused on helping keep his dad safe from infection. That's over 15 years ago. And that cornerstone of innovation became the Biolargo technology platform that now has we've spawned the creation of a medical company. We have an odor and VOC business that's serving heavy industry and municipal clients. We also have a consumer product that features that chemistry called Poof, P-O-O-P-H. Everybody needs to see it, poof.com. And that product's now expanding nationwide through national distribution and breaking records and really moving the financial needle for the company. But the answer is really simple, right? So you go back to that moment of meeting the first inventor, and what struck me was the ability to have a high purposeful business, something that would make life better. That's our make life better. And the breadth of opportunity that feeds my attention deficit disorder to be able to focus on multiple things at once, to be able to really refine a business model that says invent it, prove it up, find your first commercial adoption, and make a deal with a partner. That's our business. That's what we do. We're the supply chain partner for people that go out and distribute and put to work these technologies to solve great problems. And the great news is that we've survived long enough to now see the richness of success. The richness of success is here. We're watching it quarterly with these dramatic numbers, and we're watching it with increased cash flow, right? And so we can look forward now and say, look, one success in our portfolio pays all our bills. It takes us to profitability. We have 8 technologies and probably 40 products in the portfolio. So we're just getting started, and finally, we have some critical mass. We have talent, we have capital, we have standing, we have good reputation. One of the things about being, passionate about environmental engineering and solution is there's no room for mistakes. One of the things our engineers have taught me is how to do this without making mistakes. It's a methodical, stepwise process. It's called a phase gate, right? Each phase you realign and you hit the target. You hit the target on time and on budget. You provide a service to a customer that says, how can I help you? We've got the knowledge and the tools to help. We've got tools in the toolkit. We've got the knowledge with the commitment to serve. And we do it in a fair way, right? Fair price. So as a result, the welcome arms that we receive in the market is just awesome. And so this is a time when the company is just accelerating, and the world is our oyster. So it's pretty cool.
This is really cool. And even despite all these terrific parts that are moving together, the last few years have presented a lot of disruptions to companies. How has your company overcome the last 3 years of challenges that we faced in the markets with lockdowns and returning back to normalcy?
It's so many of the things that we focus on are kind of recession proof. It's really interesting. Pet products. People love their pets. They're not going to stop taking care of their pets. PFAS solutions need help no matter what, because it's so damaging to people, right? So most of the things that we do are not so sensitive to the economic fluctuations, if you will. Now, macro trends certainly hit the capital markets, right? So we see some depression there. You have to overcome that over time. Accessing capital is a little harder for sure. But again, given the way our burn rate is so low, it has been so low, our opportunity is so big, and with our rising revenue base and the reduction of the burn rate, right, heading towards that mark of profitability, we've actually been a shining star in the midst of a lot of gloom. And so we think that we've gotten through that. Now, I will say that as we scale, we're going to have the challenges of supply chain just like everybody else, and I think that's real. It's real. Now, one of the things that we commit ourselves to is when we innovate, we try to focus on innovations that allow us to rely on domestic supply chain. And I think that's a super critical piece of our puzzle. And we have some new innovations that come to market that really highlight that emphasis on domestic supply chain. We can source internationally, but it sometimes can be very problematic. So we like staying domestic, staying in a tight supply chain control, make sure there's enough margin to support that. And then really just focus on customers, right? Focus on customers doing a good job and a good value. And if we keep that formula, our business is going to be busy long after I'm gone. Okay, long after. We're building something that will last, and it's really good.
And where are you headquartered, or your operational locations?
The corporate office is based in Westminster, California, which is North Orange County, right between Los Angeles and Orange County. And it's a good spot. And it's we've been there, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. I can't even remember. But it's an industrial type spot where we can do some manufacturing, light sales, and light engineering. We also have an operation in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which is where our engineers are housed. We have an R&D facility up in Edmonton, Canada, on campus at the University of Alberta. Our medical company is a little more virtual at the moment, with the headquarters in Denver and in Tampa, right? And so we're on Zoom calls every day, and we're out in the field working with customers. And so it works really well for the nature of our business.
Excellent. And for the investors out there, what's in the immediate horizon for Biolargo? I know you mentioned there are some things in the pipe. Are you able to elaborate a little bit more about the next 6 months to a year?
I think the record-breaking revenue growth is going to continue. Okay, and the big driver, there's a couple of drivers, but the big driver is the POOPH product, POOPH. That's a product that's been launched through a partnership with POOPH Incorporated. And you can look it up on the World Wide Web, POOPH.com. That product was launched direct to consumer through an infomercial, and it's now widely seen all over the television on major networks. And they've done an incredible job. We partnered up there as a supply chain partner using our technology and our manufacturing capability to support them as they launched a product into mass retail. It's an awesome product. And their slogan, they go, poof it, you got to poof it. And it's an odor and VOC control for pets, safe for the planet, safe on the pet, does no harm. Incredibly powerful as it breaks down the organics that cause odor. So, right? So that's what it does. It's an oxidizer, breaks down the organics. It works. It works beyond any question. We believe it's the number one performer in the market, number one technical performer. Okay, so that product launched in December of last year, a year ago, so a little over a year ago. They've moved up to over 30 million in annual run rate. Its numbers are climbing so dramatically. We represent a portion of that as the wholesale supplier, and we work on a cost plus basis, and we get a small royalty on sales. And their stated goal is to get that product to about $100 million in run rate a year, at which point there's a viable exit to hand that off to a national brand company for a multiple that will be somewhere between 3 to 7 times revenue. Okay, so their vision is to exit for 300 to 700 million.
All right.
We've negotiated a 20% participation in that exit. So we fully expect that this product will achieve that kind of status and will demand a high multiple. They've done it in such an incredible way. The team at Poof is an incredible creative team and executing with excellence on driving consumer awareness and demand. They launched in Walmart just in the fall through a national testing, blew out the numbers. They're now expanding nationwide. They just got picked up by Chewy. Of course, they're on Amazon. And once you see the infomercial, you can't unsee it because it's so compelling. And compelling because it just drives home the value propositions in such a way that people can immediately recognize that this is a product that can work for them, right? That's what they're really good at. So think about that. We're the technologists, we're the manufacturing support, they're the creative. They design this compelling argument, this show that grabs your attention. It's working really, really well. And so it's the full circle of innovation for Biolargo to watch that come true, to find that national channel and really start blowing out numbers. So over the Super Bowl weekend, which just happened, they had, I think, 8 spots at the Puppy Bowl. Just so you know, the Puppy Bowl is a big deal. And they had spots that were running advertising spots on the Super Bowl streaming channel. And so that's the kind of visibility that this product is getting. And so if anybody has an animal, a pet, a dog, a cat, you got to check it out. I mean, it really is a great product. And of course, we've known this for years, and now to watch it come full circle into this national brand recognition is just awesome. And I just want to remind people that that's just one category of multiple that we own. And so we'll see this replicate over time. Anyway, the poof thing is just so awesome. And then, you ask others, of course there's others. We have emerging technologies. We have partnerships in the water industry with the Garrett Callahan, which we've talked about before. That's a 100-plus-year-old largest privately held water company in North America. And we've done a product together, and it hasn't launched yet. It will. And I think it's going to be a big one, right? And so we have multiple revenue channels around the company. A couple that are hitting. Engineering's hitting. The PFAS is hitting. The Poof product and its odor control, that's hitting. We have more in the queue that are in preparation to launch, basically working to land our first reference accounts and get going. But I gotta remind everyone, they're big. Some of these projects at that level can come in at $500,000 all the way up to $10 and $15 million projects. These are big. Our engineers have also been picked up as project leaders in foreign projects for waste to energy conversions that they're in the billions. They're $1 billion projects. We're the lead engineer, so we're providing services, and our reputation is expanding in that world as well. So there's just so much going on. And as I said, Biolargo has a conveyor belt of innovation. And that culture is not going to change. We're going to continue innovating and bringing these great innovations to market. Some get rapid adoption, some are slow as can be. I mean, we've got a couple that's like, are we ever going to get it commercial? And the answer is yes, we will. You know why? Because we know they're that good. They just need to be well positioned at the right time in the marketplace. And in some of these, we were early. PFAS, we were early. Guess what? We're not early anymore. And now we're ready, right? So There's a lot. There's a lot to watch for. And I always say to investors, come back about every 6 months. If you don't like it now, come back in 6 months and take another look, because you're not going to believe the metamorphosis that's occurring in the maturity of our adoption, our revenue cycle, the growth of the company. We're in a pretty rapid growth phase, so it's good.
There's a lot of exciting things going on. I definitely will be checking out Poof as a multi-pet household over here. Are there any?
You're gonna love it. Anybody? I got to write a review too. Okay, good.
Yeah, actually, I'd love to be a brand ambassador, so I'll let you know. Are there any closing remarks for the investors out there, for the community as a whole?
Yeah, I encourage this is a company where a drive-by at Mach 3 is not going to work. It's not going to work. So, and that's good and bad, right? That's a challenge, because you have to take a deeper dive. But I'll tell you what happens when you take a deeper dive. This is the kind of company that you can make an investment in and hold on for the long haul, because it's destined for success. I mean, that's the way we look at it, and we're proving it now, right? It took a long time to prove it. Oh my gosh, it took so long. And anybody that's done innovation knows the cycle is so difficult. So the way to think about us is we're doing something really special. We're innovating in tough markets with lots of competition. We're doing things that have never been done. And now we've stayed the course long enough to achieve critical mass and watch adoption happen. The seeds we've been planting are bearing incredible fruit, and we're just getting started. So we hope people will take a little bit deeper dive, and of course, reach out to the company. We love what we're doing, and the awards keep stacking up, and the recognition, and the customers, and the revenue. So go Biolargo.
And what's the easiest way to track the pace of these different stories? Is your website the best place? Social media? Where can we go to?
Blog, yeah, we have a blog that we're really active in, and it's attached to our website. Press releases are just a snapshot. I mean, it's because there's so much that's sort of organic. It's organic growth. It's not a financial press release, and we don't publish every step of our organic growth. It's not a material financial event. But when you look at them in the aggregate, they are material. They stack up, because it just never stops. And so the blog is a great chronological view. Of course, we're on Twitter, and so that's a nice way to get a snapshot. We also have a newsletter. You can subscribe. We put out 1 or 2 a month. We don't kill everybody with it, but we just progressively announce things that are organic and expanding. And then as they expand, our natural financial results also follow. And so, like the PFAS, we've landed this first customer. It hasn't made significant financial implications to the company yet, but we know it will, and it's multiples of our current run rate. I mean, it's a big deal, and that's one customer. And literally, there's hundreds in the queue, hundreds. So it's the real innovation. It's got a home. The trick to adoption in that market is to be very careful to be successful in a stage gate process, so you have reference sites that open up the channel. And that's what we're doing. We're laying these gold bricks of foundation that we can leverage to find broad commercial success. And we're very careful as in precise, as in as perfect as you could possibly be to get that technology seeded in the market. So yeah, and again, just put it on your watch list. Watch Biolargo, because we think it's going to be and it's taken a long time, right? My apology to the world is, I'm sorry it took so long. The beauty is it's actually happening. Now we're at a spot where we can look at success, and the things that we're doing right now we've talked about for years, and they're actually happening. So we're proud of that, and we think it's going to continue. And of course, we feel like as proud as we are of success, we feel like we've just scratched the surface. We're just getting started.
Dennis, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, for sharing Biolargo with us. Like I said, I think it's imperative, the work that you're doing, and we are all really excited to follow your success along. And thank you again for joining us here today and sharing with our viewers.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan.